If you want to learn C++ or you are interested in it, you are at the right place. I started programming with the beginning of this channel. Use the timestamps for a better overview by hovering over the time bar, and not to forget, if you like the content and want to be part of the future community, consider to subscribe and leave a like. And with this, let's start the video. And today we are looking in the Hello World program, what it actually does and how the program can work. And first we have here the include IO stream. This is basically the library where all the commands that we use exist. For example, the std, that is for standard library, and then cout for character out, and our character out will be hello world. And we have to include the syntax. We have this std library that we have to declare with the double point, and then cout because that's the name of the command. Then we have the insertion operator because we want to insert something into the console, and then we have to declare what we want to insert in those double exclamation marks, and then we want hello world and then the semicolon. And when we do that, we can run our program and see, yes, it all works. And by the way, I have to say, you have to do all of that in the main function for this little example, because the main program always runs in the main function, and every statement that you make have to work in some function. And the main function is the part where the computer goes always back to, and it will also end the whole program in the main function with this return to 0, so the computer knows the program ends. And now I have put another cout into it with a number inside, and when we run it right now, you can see the number is directly behind hello world, and we don't want that. And for that we have a basic command that is std and endl, and when we do that, it creates us a new line. And to endl is also that it flushes the buffer, and you don't have to know exactly what it is right now because we have it later in a future video, but it basically pushes everything that is at the moment into the buffer out to the console, so everything that has to be written is written. And there is also another way to do that, but it does not flush the buffer like we had on std-endl, and that is \n, and it does basically the same, but it does not flush the buffer, but it makes a new line, as you can see, and the 234 is on the new line now. And now we can do the same with a variable, and we have made a variable called with the initializer num1, and the value is 41, and we directly initialize it, that the value is there. And for printing it out, we can just say the insertion operator and then the initializer, and that's basically all you have to do. And when you want to run the program, you can see it is directly printed behind the other number. And as you might notice here, I left a little space open, so we have the space in between the numbers so you can better see it. And you have to do all those that you can insert a value. And now there are multiple ways to do this \n here to make a new line. The first one is this with the double quote, but you can also do it with single quotes, and it works completely fine. And we could run the program and it should output the exact same. And you could also put all that away and put it in here, and this completely works fine, and it will not be confused, and you can start a program and it will all be fine as before, and you have your new line. And it may be important to say that you should use the \n preferred to the std-endl, because it is just simpler, shorter, and it will not output your buffer if it's not needed. And now I have made some new code to show you the example with the std syn command for giving a number to our variable that we have here now with no value. And for this we are using the extraction operator to give it a number. And when we run the program, you can exactly see what our program does. First we have here enter a number, and then on the same line we can enter the number. And for example, we take 3 and then we print out you have entered the number, and then it puts our number that we have entered into the place, and we have 3. You have entered the number 3, and to enter it you have just to make those insertion operator and just put the name of the variable after it, then it works completely fine. And if you want to enter more numbers than just one, you can just copy that down here, or with a space, then say it's number 2 with no value, and then we can make here a space, say num2, and with that we can also say here for the cout, here we want to add number 2, num2, and with that it's all clear. We can just, for better visuals, we can say here an and with spaces in between, so they have a space for the number. And when we run our program now, you can see we can enter a number, and we try 2, and then we can enter the second number, and when we have as the sin, it will make a space when we had entered a number, so our second number is now on the next line. And we enter, for this example, 5, and then it says us with a space in between because it already made a space, so we actually don't need this \n. We could enter it without it after that. And then you can see number 2 and 5 like we entered them. And now we can get rid of this \n, and when we run it now and say again 2 and for example 3, we have no space in between, and this works fine. And now you can experiment with those examples. For example, if we enter something different than a number, because we have integers, it has to be a number. For example, we type e, and let's see what it does. And it just says you have entered number 0 and 0 because you cannot enter e, and by default the value of the variable is 0. And another example, if you want to directly answer both of the values here, you could just make a space in between. Then I click the space bar, and then for example 4, then it takes both values, and now we have the number 3 and 4. Or we can make something else. We can take the first number and then click enter, and then make the second number and then put some letters, and then we see what happens. We can see it takes the number as it is, and then we have the second number, and it only takes the numbers and not the letters. And you can experiment with that how much you want to figure out what works and what not. And now we are coming to the quiz time. We have here an example, and it wants us to enter some different values. The first one is that we have to enter an h and to say what output it will give, and this output will be 0, because if it's not valid it will just enter 0 into it. And now the next one, if we have a fractional component, try numbers with fractional components 0.5 greater than or less than 0.5, and to show the solution is it is just the fractional component is dropped, so the component behind the number, so it only shows us the 3 when we have finished and entered it. And now a small negative integer such as -3, this is completely fine because the integer type supports minus. And for the next one, as a word such as hello, it will again print 0 because it's not accepted, because it's no integer. And then a really big number, at least 3 billion. And when we do that, because integers have a maximum capacity of, it shows you here, it is 2 billion 174 million and more. And when we go over that, it will just show you the biggest number that is possible and not more. There are some ways to increase that number, but this is not for this video here. And the next one is a small number followed by the letters such as 1, 2, 3, ABC. Then we had this in our example that we are just printing out the numbers and not the letters. And yes, x gets the numeric value of 1.3. Yes, and that's almost it. I just quickly want to show you. Here I changed it up to experiment for myself a little bit, but it's all the same here. If we want to enter a value now that is not possible, for example the age that we had in our example, and we enter, then you can see both value gets 0 because the value is directly not correct. It will just say equal to 0 for both of them. And for example, when I run it correctly, I say 3 and 4, it will enter like it should. But now num2 is not used, so it does not even make a space for us when we type the wrong number. For example, if we have 2 here and we say age here, then we have the 0 at the end and we make another one, for example age, and then because the number 2 is not entered, we have the text directly behind number 2 and not under it. And it can cause some errors like that if you have multiple numbers that you want to get from one function. And yeah, that's it. And yeah, that's it for the video today. If you're still here, thank you very much for your dedication, and I hope you learned something or had some fun watching my video. And I think that's it for it. In the next episode we look into uninitialized variables and undefined behaviors, and I think I can say bye.